Hi, my name is Ariel from the Children of Karma, and today I'd like to discuss Mercury and Neptune aspects. Attached to your ability to communicate, it can seem that you're a bit foggy, cloudy, in another world. It's free thinking. They want to think outside of the box. And sometimes it can appear to others that it's a bit vague. There can be symbolic, speaking through symbols like astrology, for example. It can seem like another language to someone else listening to it. And so it can appear like, what is this person talking about? Even speaking more poetically or through metaphors, it wasn't always understood. A different frame of reference, a different lens. If you think about how most of the writing from the past, they're describing something, maybe they don't know the name, they're describing it in another way. For example, a car, how would they describe a car? Like a metal wagon, that just sounds weird. It takes you a few seconds to really kind of, what does that mean? It's a translation process with Mercury. You're translating what spirit is telling you, what your intuition, I feel like the intuition is that receiver of what we get from spirit. And so there's a translation process that needs to happen before people can really understand what it is you're saying. Not everyone is meant to understand them. Maybe that's something we should consider as well. Not everyone is meant to understand, or maybe not right now. Maybe there will be another time period where your words can be understood. Sometimes it's about the timing in someone's life. Maybe at one point they won't be as willing to give you their patience, their time to understand you. And maybe later on, usually, when we're sick or when we're ill or through some crisis moments, we're looking for that softness, and that's where you come in. That's where that voice, that poetic, a different way to view things, a different perspective, but at the same time, because it's tied to Neptune, and these planets refer to the collective, it can also show that there is an understanding of the collective, that maybe you speak for the collective. Perhaps you have this could be a politician, for example. Someone that speaks grand ideas. And this person thinks in an idealistic way. It's about saving people, maybe through your words, or maybe learning about certain crises or disadvantaged groups, so humanitarian crises, learning about how this began, what's really happening, sharing it, spreading the message. Depending on what sign also that you have this in, that can also color how that Mercury will be used, how it wants to be used. It can show signs of mental illness, because Mercury is the mind, and the mind, Mercury instinctually just wants to transcend boundaries. So it wants to think far and wide, and think maybe in places that are a little uncomfortable for a lot of people to think about. When I'm in those spaces that a Mercury Neptune will take you to, that sensitivity, it is a real sensitivity, it's feeling all of the sensations that are going on. For example, with Moon Neptune, that includes the body too, so it's more complex. But the Mercury Neptune, it will take your mind to different places of thought, philosophically, different views, perspectives of thoughts that can really open your mind. This aspect opens your mind. It forces you to think outside of the box. Both of these planets prefer to be outside of the box. It really depends too on the sign. Say it's a fixed sign, then this is a Mercury that needs to be more restricted or stubborn. I guess their mind is not as movable. But this aspect in general is just very much a mind mover. I think the Mercury Neptune person realizes that we're living alongside spirit, Not all of us may be able to see spirit, but we know that it's there. Some of us really know that it's there. And like this aspect, you know that it's there and you're communicating with it. And I really, at this point in my life, I don't see much wrong with that. Sure, it can go to an extreme, but there are different situations for every person. Experiencing chronic pain or dead nerves, something that will last long term for the rest of your life. It's beneficial actually to pull yourself out of that situation and escape the ordinary, and think more philosophically. Feel the sensations that are going on. Allow your mind to be moved. Allow your mind to change. Allow your mind to explore other places. And Neptune is suffering. So it can be that you transcend the boundaries of suffering and you find other ways to live your life. When I'm in that space where I feel like nature is talking to me, that I'm seeing the leaves waving at me, and I'm just feeling so connected, I just let myself be in that space. It benefits my body. I've noticed, acting like a scientist and testing things out and seeing what works, I know that I'm able to escape from the pain. I'm able to have a few moments of relief because my mind is able to leave. It's like a little mental prison, and if we're allowed to escape that room, even for a few seconds every day, it helps. It helps because we have to be in that room, realistically, probably forever. Some of us have to be in that pain, that place of suffering for the rest of our lives. And so we have to find opportunities to escape that room. People love to criticize, they love to judge, and just remember that usually they're judging without the full deck of cards, without all of the information. And you can make a strong decision about your life based on the judgment of others, and you may never see that relief. You may never be able to see that relief because you're worried, if I were to step outside of that room or step outside of my box, that maybe I wouldn't be accepted, maybe I wouldn't be appreciated, maybe I would deal with judgment, criticism. People would look at me like I'm crazy. Sometimes I get this urge to touch a tree, lay my hands on it. I'm not hugging trees, but I would, but because I'm worried about the approval of others, I'm just laying my hands on the tree. But even in that case, it's like, how many trees can you touch before somebody starts calling for help? If it helps me, then if it helps my body's at peace doing it, then what does it really matter to you? Let me transcend my suffering. I guess because the pain is so strong, it's forced me into this line of thinking. And they say that you get this line of thinking as you get older, that you just don't care about the approval of the collective anymore. I feel this pain has at least allowed me to escape that briefly, because I see something as more important. Relieving myself of the pain is more important than whether people think that you're normal. I mean, who cares? Who cares if you're normal? This aspect can also deal with business. Mercury can be business. Neptune can be tied to the ocean. So say you have a business deal. Maybe you work on cruise ships. Maybe you have a maritime business. Maybe it's a water sports. Your employees, maybe they work overseas. Maybe you run an international business and your clients are from other countries. So maybe they speak other languages. Neptune is glamour. I love that part of Neptune. So it's speaking glamorously, having the ability to charm. charm through your words, like people are hanging on your every word. It can speak poetically, right? It can be a poet, a writer, a creative writer. It can be a filmmaker as well. Speaking glamorously, but also learning the tricks of the trade in terms of glamour, how to evoke something through your art, you know, how to call in a certain emotion, influencing people to do certain things through your art. Mercury can also be deceptive, just like Neptune. And so you can use these skills in order to deceive others. The media, film, art, music, you know, you can use it to manipulate or to evoke a certain memory, feeling, emotion, action. This aspect is a musician, a songwriter, a storyteller, an actress, a filmmaker. This has some pull in our society. The charm factor has a lot of pull, even more so sometimes than the actual content itself. It can be more about the charm. And so this aspect can be very good at that. Kind of sink into the minds of other people and move them subtly with their words. You know, maybe they say something that really moves someone, or it really bothers someone, and it forces them to act in a way that maybe they wouldn't. And also on the other end, the weak boundaries of this aspect, it can be that you're blending with other people as well. I've dealt with this a lot, is blending. I think the initial intention is to blend in order to understand. You want to understand what this other person is dealing with, going through. So you blend yourself to that energy, kind of like an actress in a play. You're blending into that character's energy so that you can fully understand them, so that you can play that part. And it's like all of this is happening in an unconscious way. And sometimes we can just really blend with that energy where we lose ourselves completely. Maybe even our own opinion is blended with someone else. And it's difficult to find that separation. Thank you for joining me for this video, and I'd love to see you at thechildrenofkarma.com, where we can find ancestral patterns and even a transit monthly service, natal and synastry. There are a few services on there, so I'd love to see you, and don't forget to like the video. Bye.